The size of the millennial generation is to blame for sky-high inflation, strategist says. Sounds like someone trying to protect Joe Biden. The latest consumer price index data this week revealed a searing 9.1% increase year over year in June, prompting Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen to say that inflation in the U.S. is unacceptably high. Well, look who's responsible for it. The cause behind the steep jumps include high energy prices, pandemic stimulus spending, and geopolitical crisis, but one investor is blaming millennials. Well, that investor is an idiot. Soaring inflation is putting markets on edge and triggering fears of a recession. The latest consumer price index data this week revealed a searing 9.1% increase year over year in June, prompting Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen to say that inflation in the U.S. is unacceptably high. And the person who's responsible for it is your boss. The causes behind the steep jumps include high commodity and energy prices, triggered by supply shortages and Russia's war in Ukraine. Oh, for crying out loud, stop blaming the war in Ukraine. Record government spending packages on economic stimulus and low interest rates amid the COVID pandemic and continuing labor shortages and supply chain problems meeting increased demand. But one investor is arguing that there's another major factor to blame: millennials. See, what everyone is not including in the conversation is what really causes inflation, which is too many people with too much money chasing too few goods. Bill Smead, chief investment officer at Smead Capital Management, told CNBC's Squawk Box Europe on Thursday. Smead explains that in the U.S. there are estimated 92 million millennials, primarily in the 27 to 42-year-old age bracket. The last time we saw what we call Wolverine inflation, which is inflation that is hard for policymakers to stop, was when 75 million baby boomers had replaced 44 million silent generation people in the 1970s. So we have in the United States a whole lot of people, aged 27 to 42, who postponed home buying, car buying, for about 7 years later than most generations, he said. But in the past 2 years, they have all entered the party together, and this is just the beginning of a 10 to 12 year time period where there's about 50% more people that are wanting these things than there were in the prior group. So the Fed can tighten credit, but it won't reduce the number of people wanting these necessities in comparison to the prior group, Smead said. To be sure, the Federal Reserve's printing of an unprecedented amount of money since the pandemic began is a major cause of inflation, economists agree. Smead also did not mention skyrocketing energy prices due to geopolitical events and supply issues, which can't be blamed on millennials. Plenty of millennials would disagree with the idea that they all have a lot of money and are now purchasing assets. According to a number of surveys taken in the last 2 years, upward 60% of millennials are delaying home buying due to student debt or the simple cost of homes compared with wages. This generation is also the one with the fastest growing debt burden. Even many of those with ample funds are still holding back. As recently as June, the CNBC Millionaire Survey found that millennials are 3 times more likely to be cutting back on big purchases compared with their baby boomer counterparts. 44% of millennial respondents said higher rates have caused them to delay purchasing a new home, compared with only 6% of baby boomers. Nearly half of millennial millionaires said they are delaying purchase of a car because of higher rates, more than double the rate of baby boomers, CNBC wrote. Pressure on the housing market due to the pandemic-induced shortage of inventory and high competition is also keeping many potential buyers in the late 20s to early 40s age group away. Despite all this, largest home buyer market by generation. Despite all this, millennials are still making up the largest chunk of the home buyer market by generation. They're also the largest generation in the U.S. by population. Millennials now make up 43% of home buyers, the most of any generation, and increased from 37% last year, the National Association of Realtors found in its latest study released in March. The NAR classifies 23 to 31-year-olds as younger millennials, and 32 to 41-year-olds as older millennials. 81% of younger millennials and 48% of older millennials were first-time homebuyers more than other age groups, NAR wrote. Older millennials made up the largest generational group of buyers at 25%, and the median age was 36, the study found. The next largest group was Gen Xers at 22%, with the median age at 49. Some young adults have used the pandemic to to their financial advantage by paying down debt and cutting the cost of rent in moving in with family. They are now jumping headfirst into home ownership, Jessica Lotz, NAR's Vice President of Demographics and Behavioral Insights, said in the report. The figures still leave a lot of young people out of the picture. According to rental listing site Apartment List in 2020, 18% of millennials believe they would be paying rent forever, giving up on home ownership, nearly double the rate of 10.7 2 years prior. The Fed's role. As the Fed pumped U.S. market with liquidity, or some say flooded it, and kept interest rates low over the last 2 years, the officials contended through 2021 that creeping inflation was transitory. In late May, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen admitted she had been wrong. I think I was wrong then about the path that inflation would take, she told CNN's Wolf Blitzer in an interview. Sonny, you were the last one to be aware of that. There have been unanticipated and large shocks that have boosted energy and food prices and supply bottlenecks that have affected our economy badly that I at the time didn't fully understand. Then get rid of then find someone else for the job because you were the last. Just because you were last to the party doesn't mean you have an excuse. Mm-hmm. The Fed has approved 3 interest rate hikes this year, with the latest in mid-June, constituting the largest single increase in the country since 1994 at 75 basis points. After June's inflation of 9.1%, analysts predict the central bank could deploy a massive 100 basis point rise to combat inflation, which in the U.S. is at its highest in 40 years. Atlanta Fed President Raphael Bostic, when asked earlier this week by reporters about the likelihood of the hike, replied, "Everything is in play." You're the one who suggested this article, right. so I'm gonna let you speak first. Just let me get something to drink because my mouth's starting to get dry.
Understood. That's a long article. I'll wait.
All right.
In the meantime, guys, play some music on my end. That is, to those who are hearing me, you can check me out on Dr. Gaze 101 my Twitch for music. Hold out for a second. I'll set the music soon.
Okay, like I said, since you brought up this article, I want you to go first.
All right. Well, I'm not a big economic expert or an official economic expert. I've been studying the market to my awareness for how many years now. I'm currently majoring in business at my online school for the last 2 years altogether as an online student to begin with. What I can tell from the article is that they're blaming everything on the millennials for quite some time now, for at least about 5 years now, from like the economy to the living quality to lifestyle quality, and it's like it's not our fault the fact that the baby boomers themselves have their hand in the economy for God knows how many decades, prior to us being born. So we're just late to the party, yes, but at the same time we're not the ones who started up the economic fiasco back in the 1990s. Because based upon what former president at the time, Bill Clinton, the president of the United States, did in the 1990s, was he tried to maintain the budget, federal budget, from like $5 billion to $3 billion or $5 trillion to $3 trillion of the overall debt. But after the 2000s, when Bush came to office, it went higher and higher. Obama much higher, Trump much higher, than now Biden. It's like now it's $30 trillion in debt. So it's not our fault, because back in the 1990s, we were like not even like 10 years old, so most of us millennials. So you can't blame everything on us. And we just want to just play video games and have a good time. So we're not into working like 60, 70, 80 hours a week, literally just to kill time. Like if I want to work that kind of conditions, I will make sure that you have some backups, in case I get sick, or I have to lose a limb, or something of that sort. Because let's face it, work is not going to make you, they're going to keep you if you miss work after a while. So, but other than that, it's don't blame everything on us. to CNBC, ABC, whoever these news stations are. Now, I understand it sounds economical. It sounds like, well, what's the point of knowing about all this economics? But it affects us as gamers to what we buy, sell, what we do with our games. Can we put it on the market? Can we put it on eBay, Amazon? It's harder now than for the last few months now to buy games, because last year and the year before we had the stimulus checks, right? All well and good, 800 there, 1,200 there, 1,400 there, 600 there, somewhere around those each of these checks. So it's about 4 checks in total, or at least 3 so far. Supposed to have a 4th one sometime this year or next year, the latest. And Andrew Yang, who was a candidate of 2020 elections, he proposed the universal basic income, UBI. And it sounds good at first on paper, but then eventually, who's going to pay for all this stuff? The taxpayers, or at least the ones who are working to pay off the taxes, they wanted to themselves, hey, I want to get a universal basic income too. So all this money is passing around, so much money pumped into the market, now all of a sudden it's affecting prices altogether, and it went up at least by 8% of what Sticks Exenhammer said the other day on one of his reports earlier this week, if I recall correctly. So this is ridiculous. Like, you can't blame. Like I said, don't blame it on us. This is your fault, baby boomers. Partially Generation X, maybe, but other than that, we just want to have a job. We want to have a job to maintain our costs and our utilities and housing. Because after a while, if you're working like a slave job or slave wage of like $10 an hour at a fast food restaurant, you're lucky to get like $350 gross pay every week. And I remember correctly, when I worked as a fast food worker for Subway sandwiches in 2005, if I was working for a whole year full time with Subway, I would get like no more than $15,000 a year before taxation. So I was like, I'm not going to survive off of this stuff after a while. This is for college students, the fast food and stuff like that. So it's a mess. The economic situation from 2008 is a mess, and they haven't brought back the boom bust style of economics, because that's what they taught us in school, us millennials. So it's not our fault that you're teaching us that up means up and down means down. The United Teachers say that is, who cares? Who cares about the up and down? So let's just make it as we go along. That's what's been going on for the last 7, 8, at least 10 years now, since the 2008 collapse, or the 2008 economic financial crisis. So it sucks, but it is what it is, right?
Yeah, I just have to say, no one seemed to know these problems. No one was talking about these problems in 2017, 2018, 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we had a different president, one who is competent at what he did. The inflation was like at 1% when Biden took office.
Okay.
And if you want to know who's responsible for the high inflation rate, there's that idiot in the White House and the idiots who voted for him. I have to say, I knew Biden was going to be a bad president, but I'll even admit, I didn't know he was going to be this bad.
Oh yeah.
When so there is that, but like I said, I knew he was not the man for the job. Unfortunately, not enough people got that message.
Oh yeah.
And now it's too late. We have to suffer. Hopefully, things will be rectified in the midterms. But as far as millennials being blamed for inflation, no, it's not millennials' problem. It's not. It's like I said, inflation was low 5 years ago. So look what happened in the last 5 years. You had Democrats get power. Democrats kept printing money like it grows on trees, and that's what caused inflation. And any news source that tries to claim otherwise, they're not completely wrong, but they're coming off as dishonest by, I think, trying to protect the president. They got their own agenda. I mean, I do have to say, I do remember a social studies class, I forget if it was junior high or high school, but we were talking about the Great Depression. And my teacher said one reason the Great Depression lasted so long is when people had money, they kind of held on to it. They weren't spending on goods. And that's why the Depression lasted as long as it did. But then again, when everything is going up day by day, you have to keep the money you have until you. Again, I think this person who wrote this article is basically trying to protect the Democrats.
Not trying to protect the Democrats, also to protect the baby boomers for their not destruction, but their selfish ways and antics of how to maintain the economy. Now, I'm not saying to maintain the economy as a political leader of sorts, whether you're a president of the United States, Speaker of the House of the Congress, or whatever that these positions are in Treasury and Federal Reserve, etc., etc. But you had your hand in there for decades prior to us being alive. There's no excuses. Like, you're supposed to teach us younger guys about that. It's supposed to be it's the highs and the lows, the boom and bust. But at this rate, now they're just making it up as they go. Because I attended an economic class, economic history, if I recall correctly, is called, or microeconomics, if not macroeconomics class from my previous college online. The guy, I was wondering to myself, like, okay, he's telling the truth that we have a boom and bust at one point, but the other class later on in my curriculum, he said, like, oh, it goes upward, highward, like everything's inflated every year, and that's about it. There's no downward spiral, there's no crash, there's no reconfiguration, reallocation of funds, or resetting the economy in a sense. It's just keep going up and up as the exponential concept is going about. Carl Denninger, who was an economist of some sort. He ran the fedupusa.org website. It's still there to this day, last time I checked. He mentioned this stuff is supposed to go down like a fucking rock. Just drop a rock in the water. That's about it. You can't just sustain this prop it up forever. You just can't. It makes things worse later on. So that's all I got to say.
Yeah. So I mean, again, this article sounds like it was a cover job.
Yeah.
They were trying to protect. They were trying to protect bad decisions. But if real people, I mean, if you were paying attention to the economy in 2021, and you look at the economy now, you know what really caused inflation. Mm. It was reckless spending, and Democrats even try to say reckless spending, more spending, will help get inflation under control, which. That's like saying more gasoline will put out the fire.
Like Max Payne was saying in the first Max Payne game, put my flames out with gasoline.
Yeah. Ready to move on?
But I just want to mention one more thing, though, that, guys, I understand it's all about politics and economics on this podcast for the last 20 minutes. But, you guys understand, like, we are part of the economy as a whole, whether you're a disabled person, as far as, like, be on Social Security, or if you're a fast food worker, we do count in the economy no matter what we do. And whatever our behaviors and patterns are affects the economy as a whole in the long term, especially in this long term. So keep that in mind, guys, because like 10, 12 years ago, everyone was working, or at least people were able to find jobs, stay at these jobs for a few months, if not a couple of years at a time, and move on. Now it's hard to keep on the jobs because they fire you, lay you off every 6 months, and you wonder to how much can I do this stuff, come from house to house or place to place in order to sustain a living. But now it's like, us New Yorkers, especially here in New York City, you have to live with at least one other person to sustain the housing. So it's iffy now, the economy, and has been for at least a good 15 years. And I hope it'll get better to those who are more competent and more eligible and more expertise of the economy. Hopefully we get like Peter Schiff in office. He was running for Congress at one point as senator or whatever. We had Dennis Kucinich, Ron Paul, Cynthia McKinney being part of the Congress, but there's only a small amount of them. It has to be us as young guys to take over and do stuff with the economy and with the government at large to make sure this is not going to be a catastrophe in the long run. So that's all I got to say.
Yeah. All right. Time to move on.
Oh, yes, indeed. No more math for us.
Halo Infinite just got its biggest update of the summer. Fans of 343 Shooter have long requested cross-core customization, and it's here, kind of. It's a rare day in video game land where fans ask for a bunch of stuff from a live service game and then actually get it. But that's exactly what happened today when developer 343 Industries rolled out a ton of community-requested features to Halo Infinite, its free-to-play multiplayer shooter. Halo Infinite, first released last year, has had a bit of a rocky life cycle. As with many free-to-play shooters, Halo Infinite is based on model. Initially planned to last 3 months, the seasons have so far operated on 6-month cycles. We're partway through the second season, which is set to run until early November. Fans say this has left the shooter starved of essential content like maps, modes, and cosmetics, preventing it from feeling as fresh as it could be. The shooter is also structured around a rollout of weekly challenges. Completing your challenges nets you XP, which levels up your battle pass, giving you new cosmetic options with each level. Previously, you could only check on your active challenges while idling in the lobby between matches. Following today's update, you can see them in the middle of a match. There's a catch though. Challenges don't track progress in real time, so you won't actually know if you landed those 5 headshots or whatever until the match is over, but hey, progress. Today's update also marks Halo Infinite's first step towards cross-core customization, or the ability to use all customization options on all armor cores. Rather than one set of armor for your avatar, a 26th century super soldier, you have 5 so-called armored cores. Each one rocks a different look. You could customize them as you see fit. The cosmetic options, from accessories to armor parts to even the various color options, are tied specifically to each one. You can't, for instance, use any colors from the Mark 7 core's mentable Crayola box of armor coatings on the cores that lack solid options. So, what do you think of these? Oh, hold on. There's more.
Yeah.
I hate how Kotaku does this. Now, after today's update, all visors work with all armor cores. They all just show up automatically for all 5 of your cores. Unless I'm missing it, though, the armory doesn't indicate which armor core the visor was initially associated with. And since some are more or less identical, like the Uroi core's deep blue tempered steel and the Rakasha's core deep blue tempered steel, you end up with a handful of visor options that look like duplicates. Your regular reminder that you can hold the Y button to compare any cosmetic option with what you're currently equipped. Hey, again, progress. That's not all. Later in the month, Halo Infinite will receive competitive and social versions of the beloved Team Doubles playlist, in which teams of 2 face off on small maps. These are currently scheduled for August 23rd, but 343 hasn't always hit targeted dates for Infinite's updates. But 343 quietly changed Team Sniper's playlist today, rolling out an update that wasn't in the official announcement, calling attention to it only on social media. Ever since the Team Sniper's playlist rolled out earlier this summer, it's featured a model that lets you start off with the Stalker rifle, a damn good precision weapon, that's also extremely not a sniper rifle. After today, that mode is gone, replaced by a mode that only spawns you with snipers. Shoddy Snipes, in which you start with a sniper and a shotgun, is still there, thankfully. Sadly, the Brute Snipes mode hasn't been purged, though at least the starting weapon, the Skewer, is technically a sniper rifle. Sorry, no word yet on either whether or not Halo Infinite will get a mode with only the shock rifle, but hey, one last time, progress. Sure, immediately, these are all small changes, but taken together, it's a sign of a game that's slowly adapting to players want it to be, much like Halo the Master Chief Collection before it. Soon enough, we'll all wake up and realize Halo Infinite 2 has legitimately evolved into a live service game. Since you're the Halo fan, I'll let you comment. What do you think of these Armor Core's updates?
Well, my friend, this is the second. It's like the second half, or like the second third of the summer season from May until December. Last time I checked, because every 6 months is a season. So it's going to drip it out content little by little for the last God knows how many months now. And first it was King of the Hill was the big thing, whoopie-doo, or quote-unquote, King of the Hill. Because, I just don't understand what 343 is doing along with Microsoft. They're just doing a dribble effect. And at the Ackman on YouTube talked about this, man. This is it prolongs the longevity of the game in some kind of way. It depends on what demographics you go into, what's a group of players. Like me, for example, I'm a big Halo player for God knows how long, because like Halo 3, especially. I mean, I did play Halo 1 and 2, but still, like, the point is that you cannot just like put out little by little content and the stories are not syncing up with the gameplay, and you expect people to keep coming back for more and buy more of your battle pass, buy more of your skins and props and signs and symbols, all this other good stuff that's okay to play in the game, but that's appealed towards the younger crowd. Like if you want the big bucks, you gotta make us buy the full gameplay of the campaign for $60, which that's expensive for that kind of game, for that game itself by itself. You expect to sell it for at least the game itself, along with multiplayer and campaign and Forge. And if you want Battle Royale to add to it, that's been rumored for quite some time now. I don't know what my Bungie's trying to do for the last several months, but it's not looking too good. It looks like a blinking moment in a sense. It's just they're doing something good at the same time bad at the same time. That's worsening the Halo community. Like, you want people to come back to your game, but you're doing it as a live service, knowing that Halo's not supposed to be a live service per se. I mean, it's a risk taker. You take a risk for it, and I'm hearing that they hired people from Russia prior to the Russia-Ukraine war, so that kind of fucked up the sync-in and the marketing as well as the content put out for the game. So one thing leads to another, you see a mishap, and now they have to play catch up until they find out some other sources, and whether it's outside or inside, try to develop these games on time or these events on time, what do you want to call them. So I don't know, man. Triple J, it's iffy. So
okay, so yeah, I'm not a big Halo Infinite fan. I'm not a big Halo player. But hey, at least since players have been asking for this feature, at least they're getting it in a kind of sort of way. So, it's better than not getting it in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
That's really all I have to say about it. Ready to move on?
Yeah, just to let you guys know one more thing, guys. To those who are listening to this podcast, whether it's live or recording, Halo, it's okay to play on its own. The younger crowd in my circle of friends, they don't like what Halo has turned into for the last 9 to 10 months at least. And I kind of relate to what they're saying, but it's still okay to play the game. But it's just that if you really want me to buy the battle pass, if you really want to buy these cosmetics and stuff, you have to find some ways and means to make it look more appealing, because why should I? Apex Legends, even though that's an online-only game, I spent $5 last time trying to catch up with the tournaments that I'm doing with zleague.gg, the website, for the last day or so. So that's like a worthwhile investment. I finally got like first place, if not second place, for my most recent tournament earlier this afternoon, online that is. So it's just keep this in mind. Like, just hold off on Halo for the time being of its excitement as much. If you're not a big Halo fan, if you're a big Halo fan like me, you can still play it. It's all right to play every now and then, but it's not the same like with Halo 3 or even Reach, especially. And I was on medication a lot back in 2010 for the first year of my mental illness, whatever. And I was doing good and excited for the game itself, and I hooked on myself onto that game. But by the time Halo 5 came out, that started to lose its power or essence, and now Halo Infinite lost a considerable amount of essence. So that's all I got to say.
Okay, so ready to move on?
Yep.
Okay, next. PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium catalog gets a big dose of Yakuza and other games this month. In addition to PlayStation Plus August offerings of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, Yakuza Like a Dragon, and Little Nightmares, the catalog of downloadable games for Extra and Premium subscription tiers is expanding next week. If you're Yakuza diehard or Yakuza curious, Sony has you covered. On August 16th, Extra Premium subscribers can download and play the following titles: Bugsnax, Dead by Daylight, Ghost Recon Wildlands, Yakuza 0, Yakuza Kiwami, and Yakuza Kiwami 2. While those titles are treated as the headliners, a few more games will also become available on that same date. Metro Exodus, Monopoly Madness, Monopoly Plus, Trials of Mama and Uno. If you need a refresher on the differences between each subscription tier, be sure to check out our breakdown. Have you upgraded to the extra or premium tiers? If so, what do you think about the offerings so far? Would any of these games, if you had a PlayStation, would any of these games convince you to upgrade to their tiered service?
Well, my friend Triple J and friends, Xbox got it too with the Yakuza. They already have Yakuza 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as well as the remake Kawinawami. And I think they also have the on sale too on Xbox it is of Yakuza the Hidden Dragon, or the latest Yakuza games. The one that's very cartoony in a sense. But that was on sale, I heard. But other than that, why should I go to PlayStation right now? Yes, I'm getting a PS5 sooner or later, but it's like, how much more do I have to pay into PlayStation? Because PlayStation 5 should have the basic of the basic, have free online gameplay, unlike Xbox does. So they should have done that instead to continue doing that particular service. And then whatever you want to buy later on, like extra games or rent games for a certain amount of price, for like $10 a month or $20 a month for a premium, something like that. I can understand that, but PlayStation got to know it's bopping and weaving with the market, because you can't just be like Microsoft. You just can't. Sony's not meant to be an actual all-out entertainment system. It was to be a gaming system that was originally for the PS3 and a little bit of the PS4 at first. And I don't know, man. I'd rather just go to Xbox for my Yakuza games, and it's on sale if I want to buy all 6 of them, especially with my Game Pass service, the Ultimate Pass that is, and I get a discount of up to 10% off each game. And if I want to make a bundle, I'm sure there's a bundle out there sooner or later with Steam and PS5 and all, depends on who will get the claim that first. That'll be a good takeaway, a good deal to have for the matter. So, but yeah, I don't know. PS is just being redundant on this one. So.
I felt that too. Actually, when I first checked the article, I had to read the update, make sure I wasn't reading an old article.
Yes.
The Yakuza games, I've talked about them at length. I'm not going to reiterate what I said. It's weird that they're releasing like 2 versions of Monopoly and the card game Uno. Do those ever do well?
I mean, Uno was on the Xbox as well for like $7, not even. On sale.
Yeah, I think it was even on the 360.
Yeah.
So yeah, if any of these games interest you, then maybe, and you haven't upgraded to PlayStation's more expensive tiers, maybe these games will convince you. But honestly, I just read the list, and like really nothing's memorable to me, besides the Yakuza games.
Right.
So it's nothing really interests me like I thought it would.
Mm-hmm.
Ready to move on?
Yep.
All right. Next, get 10 Resident Evil games for just $30, or spend just $1 and get 3 games. The latest Humble Bundle is one of the best we've seen all year, and it's giving you a chance to score 11 Resident Evil games for just $30. This includes most of the mainline series as well as several HD remasters. While it doesn't come with Resident Evil Village, you do get a 50% off voucher to use on Village. If you're not ready to drop $30, you can check out the $10 and $1 tiers, which offer 7 and 3 games respectively. All games are offered as Steam codes, and a portion of the proceeds go to the direct relief charity that's providing humanitarian support in Ukraine. Great games, great prices, and even greater cause. What more could you ask for in a bundle? So, here's a closer look at all the games included in the Resident Evil Decades of Horror bundle. In the $1 tier, you get Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil Revelations 2, Episode 1, Resident Evil, and Resident Evil Revelations. In the $10 tier, you get those 3 games, plus Resident Evil Revelations 2 Deluxe Edition, Resident Evil 0, Resident Evil 5 Gold Edition, and Resident Evil 6. In a $30 tier, the most expensive one, you get all those games, and then you get a 50% coupon a coupon that will save you 50% of the cost on Resident Evil Village, Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, Resident Evil 2, and Resident Evil 3. The bundle will stick around until August 24th, so you've got plenty of time to check out the deal. Or if you got some money to burn and want to help out a good cause, consider going big and trying to get your name on the top contributors leaderboard. The best donation right now sits at $100. So what do you think of these bundle of Steam codes that you can get between $1 to $30?
Yeah, thanks to my friend from he lives currently lives in Long Island now. He's someone I met at one of my mental hospitals. We've been friends since 2012, 2013, give or take. And he shared with me this website called kingun.com or kingun.net. And it's similar to what you've been explaining for the last minute or two. And I don't know how this economy or these style of market is with these Steam keys, but they're very lucrative to some people who are selling them for third-party websites. Like I said, mentioned of kingun.net. Whatever you mentioned with that website, it's interesting to see that you get discounts from just these third-party sites. It's great. As long as it's legitimate, as long as they're authentic, and it's not hacking, nothing of that sort, it'll be fine to resell them or rehash them on the secondary market, you want to call it like that. It's kind of like the next GameStop, but in a digital version of it. And I think what GameStop should do right now is to be all out digital. Now, of course, that means is that GameStop have to revamp its style of selling their games, because now they have to compete with Microsoft Store, PlayStation Store, Nintendo eShop. So it's kind of like people at home, like myself and you, we go on the Xbox servers and just buy an Xbox or buy a controller, and it all has 2 or 3 day shipping. And yes, GameStop has that too. I like their pre-owned stuff that they did with Xbox One and all. I got the old Xbox One controller that came with the system that was mailed to my address last week or two. And thank goodness, I had something like that first. So, but that's right now. In the future, it's kind of like, this is going to be the big thing. These e-cards, these subscriptions.
These Steam codes.
Yeah, these Steam codes, pretty much, Steam keys. Because back in the day, the 2000s, way before, because I knew I hated SteamPower.com, or Steam, whatever we're calling now. Because back in 2010, it was hard as hell to try to get the proper download speed and download style and stuff like that. And it takes hours upon hours just to try to download one game. Especially if you have dial-up, or if you have, what's it called, DSL, that's what I had back in the 2000s. And it was a different time. I would rather buy physical games back then. But now the internet is stronger, it's more reliable, it's consistent now, more than ever. Perfect. But GameStop has to adapt to that. If not, they're going to die, But other than GameStop, but I would definitely go for these Steam keys. As long as I don't get accused of hacking or accused of, illegal trade-ins, I'm fine with this.
Do any of these bundles, the $1, $10, or $30 bundle, do any of these bundles interest you?
Well, it depends on, because I know we talked about this in one of the previous episodes, recent episodes, where it's like, if you buy $1, you get 10 games, $5 for 30 games, something like that. You mentioned, right? Yes.
Maybe. That was something totally different, though.
Okay. Well, I'm still new to these digital Steam keys. Or of course, I could buy from Steam.com, SteamPower.com, but these third-party sites, like I mentioned, or that you mentioned especially, I'm like, okay, it's risky because it's random, like you said, right? So it's hard to tell.
No, it's not random. It's depending how much you spend is how much. Depending what tier you spend on, it depends what Resident Evil games you'll get. But it'll come in the form of a Steam code that you have to redeem. So it's kind of like you pay for the game tier you want. You get the codes for each specific game included in that tier. You redeem the codes, get the actual game, and then you have the actual game to play.
I see. So if I want to get all the Resident Evil games from Resident Evil 1 through 6 and Survivor, Code Veronica,
not Survivor or Code Veronica, but this had Resident Evil 1 through 6. It had Biohazard. It get you a coupon for Village. and it included Revelations.
Oh wow! Both Revelations, just one of the two.
The most expensive had both.
Oh wow! I spent $40 on Steam of the Tomb Raider bundle, the 20th anniversary edition bundle of the Tomb Raider games, of Tomb Raider 1 through 5, Angel of Darkness, the reboots of Tomb Raider, which is Tomb Raider, Rise of Tomb Raider, and the third Tomb Raider came out back 2 or 3, 4 years ago. So, that was worth it for $40. That's plus tax and all. So it was a bundle. It was worth it. So if it's like that with this, what you mentioned with these Resident Evil games, okay, try it. Especially if you're new to the Resident Evil, because I already have Resident Evil 1 through 6. I have Resident Evil. I played Resident Evil Survivor. I played Resident Evil Revelations 1 and 2. I actually own both of them. So it's like I still have time. I still try to make time to play Revelations at least, because it's a little similar to the Game Boy version of Resident Evil that I heard of with Leon and Barry team up, and Barry Bird knows now well aware of. Barry Bird was the Stars members team. Bravo, no, not Bravo. Alpha, if I recall correctly. Bravo was the one who got lost in the mansion. So it's a big story to cover throughout these games, but it's worth it. In my perspective.
Yeah, so if you're a big Resident Evil fan and you don't have the games, and you do play games on Steam, keep in mind these games are Steam's mostly for PC gamers. If you don't have the Resident Evil games and you want them, this is a great way to get them all. I still have Resident Evil Biohazard, Resident Evil, which is Resident Evil 7. The others, it's not that this doesn't interest me, the tiers specifically. It's just I'm not a PC gamer. I'm not someone who uses Steam. I'm a console gamer. Mm-hmm. So, but even I would be interested. Maybe I could only afford the $1 tier right now, but that would be something. If it was on consoles, I'm not familiar with Steam. Maybe last time I used Steam was probably like 2012. So, but if you're a Resident Evil fan and you buy games off Steam, you're experienced with Steam, why not go for these games? Ready to move on?
Yep.
Okay. Next. No, Elden Ring and Grand Theft Auto 5 are not on Game Pass yet, despite a bug on Xbox's website saying both games are also playable on the cloud. Earlier this week, some folks checking Microsoft's cloud gaming beta website noticed something weird. Listing for games like Elden Ring and Grand Theft Auto 5 not only said they were part of the company's Game Pass offering, but would also be playable on the cloud. Here's a screen grab of Elden Ring's page taken by @KLob RILLE, clearly showing both the Game Pass badge and the fact that's playable on the cloud gaming beta. Basically, Elden Ring on Game Pass. Listings for Grand Theft Auto 5, which has already been on the service and left, and weirdly, Soul Hackers all declared they were now on the subscription service. Even weirder is the fact that none of these things had ever been announced, which you think would be the case given the prominence of both Elden Ring and Grand Theft Auto 5. There's a reason for that, of course. Microsoft has since told Eurogamer that the listings were a bug. We're aware of a bug that incorrectly displayed some titles as available with Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, a representative says. We rolled out a fix and this is now updated. Normally this kind of administrative back-end stuff wouldn't be that exciting, but what got people interested here is that Gamescom is less than 2 weeks away, with Microsoft due to make a significant appearance and a live presentation. And in June, Microsoft announced that Xbox Game Pass Ultimate users would be able to play select titles they own via cloud gaming, even if they weren't part of the Game Pass catalog. Put those two things together, and it seemed entirely plausible that Microsoft had simply jumped the gun on a couple of Gamescom announcements. Calling these listings a bug certainly seems to put a dampener on that enthusiasm, but Gamescom kicks off on August 22nd, just in case you want to keep an eye on things anyway. So do you wish, what do you think about this bug that listed Grand Theft Auto 5 and Elden Ring not only on Games Pass, but as playable on the cloud?
Oh, excuse me. Sorry about that. It's been a long day for me. But Grand Theft Auto 5. What's the other game again?
Elden Ring.
Elden Ring. Oh wow. And this is a bundle, you said?
No. These were listed as playable on Game Pass via Game Pass and Game Pass via the cloud, but some bug in the system is what made these announcements come out. Neither one was on Game Pass or playable via the cloud, but people thought for a time they were.
Wow. No announcement whatsoever. Just so unexpected, huh?
It just, people thought these games were just quietly added to Game Pass, but it turns out some bug in the system.
Imagine the Lizard Squad have their hands in it. You heard of the Lizard Squad before, right?
Huh?
You heard of the Lizard Squad before, right?
No.
So, back in 2013, if not 2014, of Christmas Day, the Lizard Squad overtook the Xbox's servers with some sort of worm of sorts. And it created this fluctuation in the trafficking of data and caused a crash or at least a shutdown in the server. So I figured maybe they had their hands in it and making certain games glitchy and able to be put on the Game Pass store, or the Xbox store, or whatever. So.
Well, no one's been listed as responsible yet. So.
Okay.
It just seems like a bug. I mean, that would be great if Grand Theft Auto 5 is on Game Pass. I don't know why it's not on Game Pass yet. Is it really still selling so much that you'd be losing money? I mean, we're talking about a game that came out for the 360 and PS3 in 2013.
They're still selling it on the PS5 as of now, too.
But, I mean, I just can't imagine that it's still selling. I think anyone who would have wanted it, to buy it again would have bought it by now.
Oh, I bought my Xbox One version back in 2015, 2016, give or take. Had the Shark card offer with it, so it's worth it. Unfortunately, I haven't beaten the whole game yet, officially and fully, but I will sooner or later. So I don't want to use any, walkthroughs or whatever to see what I need to do in the game, because I can make it unpredictable as possible. So I'm trying to stick with the Strangers and Geeks missions, and as well as rampages, if there's ever are rampages. I only found one so far, so I got a little ways to go there to beat the game. But other than that, it's really keep it unpredictable. GTA 5. So.
Yeah. So anyway, yes. Unfortunately, it would be great if these games were on Game Pass, but that's not the case.